It snowed.
Oh, it snowed.
Hmm.
Yeah, actually, we are live now with Darlene Garcia. We're actually talking about the snow. So I guess actually, since we kind of just opened up with that, she can actually go ahead and I don't know how much snow did you guys get?
It wasn't a lot of snow, and in fact, it was followed by a ton of rain. So pretty much all the snow was gone. The rain melted it away, but it's extremely cold over here in Virginia. So
All right, that's interesting. I think somebody said they saw it snowing here yesterday. I'm in obviously Greenville, South Carolina. I know most everybody knows me, but for you, I guess Facebook for I guess if I get some organic traffic, they may not know. But I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, and the weather now actually I don't know. It's sunny now. It looks like there. I know it rained last night, but somebody said they did see some snowflakes yesterday, which was kind of shocking. I guess it was fairly cold because last week it was around 70 degrees, and now
uh,
that's just kind of how the it fluctuates here in South Carolina. It was about 65, 70. But yeah, I guess I should go ahead. We should go ahead and start the interview instead of talking about the weather. But yeah,
okay.
actually, I am actually with Darlene Garcia, and I guess I actually met her at Ty Lopez's mastermind actually last year sometime, and then we actually just reunited in Miami because we had another mastermind down there in Miami, and I thought her story was kind of compelling because I've actually seen. I guess she'll go a little more in detail with her story, but I actually saw how I guess the death of a loved one that I used to work with pretty much affected them in their job and how they just really couldn't focus. And they actually ended up leaving the job for a while, took a leave of absence. And when they came back, their job was pretty much, I guess, eliminated. But they actually kind of put the person in another area. So whether you guys have experienced it or not, but the thing is, I put on the initial post that this is something that everybody, pretty much goes through, whether it's the loss of a loved one, whether it's the loss of a pet, pretty much everybody is going to grieve at, some point in their life. And I thought her story was a bit compelling. So I wanted to just let you guys know that she actually has I guess a service or a business because I always talk about there's businesses for everything. I mean,
Right.
if you have a need or if pretty much if you see a problem that needs to be solved, therefore you can build a business around that. And obviously this is a major problem, a major catastrophe in somebody's life. And like I said, everybody in the world is going to experience with this. So pretty much her possibilities are limitless and endless. So I just wanted to bring her on and let you guys know. And I told her I was gonna kind of, give a little introduction, as far as her and everything. And I guess you guys saw that I did change the group. I'm going to do a video about why I changed it sometime in the near future, but I've been kind of busy. And but the situation that I want to change, as you see, I just pretty much just put one word in there because I wanted to welcome entrepreneurs in the group as well. I want to get the social media marketing agency, my current group, with you guys that are in here. You've been following me for a while. Thank you. And if you're on live right now, just let us know you're on live, or if you're watching the replay, let us know that you're watching the replay. But actually, what I want to do is I want to actually merge and get some connections with social media marketing agency owners and also entrepreneurs themselves, where you guys can actually just come into this group and actually mingle with each other and actually social media marketing agency owners may be able to help you entrepreneurs with your marketing side, and then you business owners and entrepreneurs may also be able to help the social media marketing agencies with just their businesses in general. And that's Darlene is pretty much, I guess. Well, actually, I guess my wife was the first with my first interview because really she's not so much into marketing. But Darlene is pretty much, I guess, since I've changed the group name, I wanted to bring her in and just let you guys know how she built her business. Just give you guys a little bit of information about her business. So, Darlene, you can have the floor. Just let us know how you got started. Let us know your story and everything like that. So, welcome to Darlene. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Mike, for inviting me. It's always exciting to be able to tell my story to different, groups of people. It doesn't matter, like you said, where you're from or what type of business you're in. As a human being, we're all going to grieve, right? So, my story or my journey actually started after my husband Frank died. in a tragic motorcycle accident in July of 2015. And that really pushed me into a place of utter darkness and loneliness and a lot of fear. I was in the corporate space for over 20 plus years, doing many different things. I finished off in the HR world. But after he died, a lot of what I was going through in life, or what was my life, didn't make any sense to me anymore. And so I needed to do some things. I needed to do work around who I was and how to get through my grief and my darkness. And so I took this workshop. It was called the Grief Recovery Method. And that really helped me to understand grief on a way different level. Actually made me realize that I did really understand grief, which is why I was stuck for such a long time. And this program, this method really inspired me to be able to do something to give back. Because I realized that I didn't understand grief. So I figured if I didn't understand grief, there's a lot of people out there that don't understand grief. And then being in the HR space, I knew that as business owners or employees of a company, that when we are grieving, our mental capacity is shot. Like we do not have the right frame of mind because our hearts are broken. We are emotionally unstable for periods of time, right? And so we are not being as productive as we would like to be. And a lot of times just navigating through just everyday work, things that we used to do with our eyes closed no longer seemed as easy. And that's what grief does to you. So the work that I do now isn't just to help individuals through their grief, but I have a huge passion of being out there and helping organizations or just employees alike to understand what it means to grieve in the workplace. So I do many different things around grief. I have my grief recovery method programs to help individuals, and I do them in groups as well. I also have a grief at work program that I launch out to different organizations, both big and small, to help people navigate through grief and to help leaders understand how to support their employees through their grief. A lot of things I do, is just, gosh, what do I do? I do social media marketing, of course. I get out there and I'm doing lives like Mike does. I do a lot of posting on Instagram, Facebook. I just got on Twitter. I'm big on LinkedIn. And I think it's just really about getting your story out there and getting your message out to your audience, whoever that audience is. And so my space is grief, which means that my audience is every single human being on this planet because we're all grievers. And so I really have to learn how to hustle and grind and really just be out there in every market that I can be. And in every type of marketing that there is. The newest one that I'm really excited that I just launched, or I'm going through the program right now, is how to make stages be, big for me, and how to get more people to hear my story, and to be of service to them through the programs that I teach. And so I'm learning how to make stages be a way for me to connect and market with people, and that's like really exciting for me right now. So, and then of course Mike and I are both in the mastermind with Ty Lopez and Alex Mayer, and that in itself just gives us so much wealth of information on how to really be successful in whatever business that you have, right? So mine is a very different niche, if you will. But I've always been that person that does things out of the norm. So what most people would not venture into, I usually do that. I didn't expect to become a widow at this young age, and I didn't expect to have a purpose that was around grief and broken hearts and things like that. However, it really does give me a way to honor my husband, and it helps me to give back to the world, to help people to understand that grief is normal and natural, and that healing is very possible. It doesn't matter what you experience, no matter what your grief is. And it just helps me in my own healing journey. If I could help one person through my messaging, whatever that messaging is, then I know that my husband's death wasn't in vain, and that I can continue to give to the world in a way that I never thought was possible.
Yes, that's oh, let me. Yeah, I was on mute there, but that's a pretty interesting, I guess, introduction. As far as, but actually, when you were going over some of the things that you were saying, as far as just grieving, if there was somebody in our audience right now that was grieving, I mean, what would be one particular thing that they could do that would actually, I guess, really not eliminate the pain, but I guess pretty much, soothe the pain? I mean, what's one thing that they could do? I mean, obviously, yeah, one thing they can do is actually reach out to you and I'll, ask for your services and everything. But I mean, other than that, I mean, is there one particular thing if somebody is grieving or has lost a loved one, lost a pet, and they're just really, because I guess as far as me, it's kind of like, I suppress things, pretty much, like a lot of entrepreneurs they smother themselves in their work.
Right.
And I know you said, you have pretty much, mental fog, especially pretty much you can just get mental fog from working too much. And obviously, yeah, if somebody passes away or dies or anything like that. So, I mean, what would you suggest one person to do? Because I guess, even I know I'm asking you a multiple questions. I tend to do that every now and then, but
It's
um,
okay.
but I just, kind of, I guess when I talk, I think about, I guess, other things that, I can, ask or, think stuff that I go through. But I mean, I know I suppress, a lot of my feelings and stuff like that. So, I mean, especially just being a man just being a man, period, pretty much just suppress everything. And, what would be a way, one, to, I guess, one particular thing that a person could do to, I guess, help their grieving, to get them out of grieving. But then another thing would be, how do you, I guess, surface those feelings? Because obviously, if you continue to suppress stuff, push it down. I mean, obviously, one day, it might just come up and explode.
Right.
So, I mean, what exactly? Because I think we actually had this conversation when we were at the mastermind where you said you were just, mad at everybody that was around you, mad at your loved ones and everything like that. So I think that may have just came from, just suppressing your feelings and not really, grieving
Right.
appropriately. So, I mean, do you have
Yeah.
anything to say on that?
Yeah, so well, you did talk about several different things that we get wrong as grievers. The first one is keeping busy. That's a natural human, I think, reaction to grief or stress in our life is we tend to keep ourselves busy so that we don't think about that pain or that stress or whatever that human emotion is that's really like making us feel uncomfortable. And so we go and we work and we work and we work. But the reality is that that pain or that suppression of that pain is always going to be there, right? You know this. You said it yourself. If we continue to suppress it, one day we're going to explode, and that's exactly what happens with grief. If we continue to suppress it and we don't work through it or go through it, then at some point we are going to explode, and that explosion could be anger. And taking it out at other people that you're not really upset with. It just that's how your grief is coming out because you don't know any other way to let it come out. And then keeping busy is definitely something that's only going to prolong your grief. So, the first thing that I would tell anyone that is going through a grieving event is to just remember that grief is normal and natural, which means that it's okay to feel it, right? If you need to cry, if you need to feel that sadness, if you know that you're scared for what's to come, just admit that to yourself and find a safe person that you can talk to about it. Like grief, that's one of the other myths of grief is to grieve alone. You don't have to grieve alone. There's so many people around us that want to help us and love us. And sometimes there's really nothing that they can do but just to be there for you, right? Just be physically present in that moment with you when you're ready to cry or to share your fears or your anxieties or whatever it is that you want to share about what's causing you to grieve so much. But I think that people think that it's not normal to grieve and that it's not healthy and that it makes others uncomfortable, so that they're just going to suppress it or they're going to do it when they're by themselves. And the complete opposite needs to happen in order for you to get through your grief and to get to a place of healing and eventually recovery.
Well, I know a lot of people talk about grief and, they talk about grieving. And I guess I'm still, what exactly, I mean, because some people, obviously everybody grieves differently, but you've worked with, I guess, a lot of people who have grieved. I mean, how exactly, I mean, what are some examples of the way that you can grieve? I mean, do you want to, just be in isolation? I mean, so some people think it's just people grieving as, they're just crying all the time, or, is it, I mean, I know you touched on some of that, just find somebody to, confide in, to talk to. But I mean, what exactly, I guess, what is your definition of grieving?
Of grief. Well, we actually have three definitions of grief that we tell our grievers or our clients when they come through our programs. The first one is grief is the normal and natural reaction to loss of any kind. So it's not just the death of a loved one or the death of a pet. There are actually over 43 or more life events that we go through as human beings that can be considered grief. Retirement. I know I grieved when I retired from my corporate job. Moving from one city to another, going from middle school to high school or high school to college, an end of a relationship, money issues, all kinds of any type of loss. So if you're experiencing some type of loss in your life, that is considered grief. The other definition we have is when something in your life changes, right? The emotions that are tied to the changes in your life is also grief. So when we're so used to something going on in our life, and I use that definition a lot in my space, because it wasn't just physically losing my husband, it was all the changes that happened in my life as a result of his physical absence. I no longer had a husband, so how do I be a wife? Can't be a wife because I don't have a husband anymore. He was the head of our household. He was my best friend, my partner in everything that we did, my travel partner, my lunch partner, my dinner partner. He was the grandfather of our grandchildren. I mean, so he played the significant role in every role that I played in my life and in my children and my grandchildren's life, that I lost all of that. So it becomes a ripple effect of changes in your life. It's a change to a familiar pattern or behavior in one person's life. So when you think about those changes, those actually can be grieving events in a person's life. And the last definition of grief is reaching out for someone who's no longer there when you need them, and then you realize that they're not there, or someone that's never been there. An example of that is an absent parent. If you are someone who's had an absent parent in your life and then all of a sudden they die, um, there's grief because you've lost them as a parent, but there's also grief because you never got to know them as a parent. So you're grieving in two different ways, if that makes any sense. And so reaching out for someone, that's no longer there when you just need to talk to them one more time, right? And that's grief. And so, everyone can relate to one or all three of those definitions of grief, I believe.
Yeah, I know that actually there's a series of questions because I guess that I have because I mean, just the way you explain it, the way you mentioned it, because you were talking about, life changes, like, from going to high school to college, and I guess even, even at a small age, going from, middle school to high school. I
Right?
mean, you could pretty much, so, but I mean, I'm looking back, at my life and just thinking about, I went through all those things, but I never really, I mean, experienced grief. So, I mean, how do you, I guess, identify it as grief? Because most of the time it's just like, oh, you're just going through a change. I mean, how do you get people to, I mean, just seriously, I mean, I just want to, it's kind of, real talk now, because I mean,
Right,
it's just,
right.
and then, I mean, and then I'm thinking about how can you market this to people? Because right now I know a lady that just lost her husband, and I work with her. I mean, it's probably maybe 2 weeks ago. And I've been looking at her post on Facebook, and I mean, it's just everything's
For
about
sure.
him. And it's like, yeah. So, I mean, it's just, everything, about him. And I guess, just looking at you and just how you're freely talking about, your husband and,
Wasn't
just,
always easy.
the fact, yeah, that's what that, I mean, that's something that I wanted to, mention too, is like how, I mean, how long did it take? I guess it's different for everybody, but I
Right.
mean, how long did it take you to, I guess, experience your grief? And then I guess, well, just answer that question first. How long did it take you to get over, I guess, the fact of, your husband was actually gone, you never see him again? Because I mean, this is a hard topic even now,
Right?
because I feel uncomfortable asking you these
No,
questions.
don't. Please
So
don't.
yeah.
I know it's a human reaction to be that's the thing. Grief is like a stigma. Like no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to be around a person that's grieving because it breaks your heart to see their heart broken. And because you can't take away their broken heart, it's just the most uncomfortable situation ever, right? Like I've had people see me and I can see them walking towards me, and as soon as they see me, they walk the other way. And it's because they know that when they see me and they ask me, "Hi, Dar, how you doing?" My answer might not be a very good answer, right? Because they know that I'm still in this dark place. Like this was early on after my husband died. And I will tell you that it definitely has gotten easier over time to talk about his death and what that has done for me. I remember in the beginning, every time someone asked me about it or I needed to talk about it, I cried. But I also will tell you that there are definitely many moments still today that when I talk about him, it knocks the wind out of me. Right? So, grief, that's why I said that first definition. Grief is the normal and natural reaction to loss of any kind. And there are going to be moments like, I don't know if you saw that video that I posted on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and it was a short snippet of a keynote that I had done on Guam, and I talked about how I went to go visit my husband at the cemetery right before I had to go speak. And all of a sudden, I was so overwhelmed with emotion because I realized that I was going up here to inspire people that healing is is possible, that everyone can discover healing at some point in their life. But I'm talking about this because he's dead. And that sucked. At that moment, I was just like, I don't want to do this work, right? Like if I had a choice, I would rather have you back than to have to go up there and inspire hundreds of people. But at the end of the day, my purpose now is to help so many more people in the world because of his death. And so there's like this conflicting feelings that are going on, right? I am so humbled and so honored that I can share my story and help others. But at the same time, that story for me sucks every single day. Right. So it never goes away, Mike. I will tell you that. It does get easier, and there's definitely always going to be moments of sadness and joy that coexist in my life. And I've actually embraced that. I've embraced the fact that I can be happy and sad at the same time. It sounds kind of weird, but when you're a griever and you know how to deal with your grief and you've gone through the steps to deal with your grief, then you will understand what it means to have those two very real emotions coexist in your life and make it be okay for you in your life. Yeah, so there is no time frame. You said that earlier. And it's never too soon to heal your heart. I remember when I first went to the workshop, the grief recovery, it was 3 months after Frank died. The people that were in that room with me that were there to heal their hearts, 5 years, 20 years, 12 years, 10 years, 3 years. And I'm sitting back going, maybe I should come back in a year. Like, I think it's too soon for me to be here. And everyone's like, no, no, no. Like, we commend you for being here and realizing that you needed to do something and take these steps to heal your heart. We wish we had known this back then because we suffered for so long before we found this program. You are very fortunate that you found it in 3 months, right? And so I got it at that moment. And so, yeah, it's never too soon, but it's every individual's path. So, for example, your coworker, if she's not ready to heal her heart, then I wouldn't recommend her coming to me. Like, she has to voluntarily want to do this, right? And for me, it sucked. Like, I felt like I was going to die. I felt like I couldn't breathe normal. I felt like I was going crazy. And I knew that I needed to do something. I had little humans, my grandchildren, that would tug on me and would come and hug me and cry with me. And I wanted to laugh with them and embrace them with happiness and love, and I couldn't do it. I had my adult kids that were looking at me going, what do? We can't help our mom. We're grieving the loss of our dad, but our mom is going through all of this and we want to be strong for her. And so I had all of this around me in my inner circle that was really my driving force to get me to look for help, because my family was dependent on me to do that. Like, they didn't know how to heal because they saw me stuck in this dark place. And so I knew that now I was the head of my home because Frank was gone. I needed to do something to lead my family out of this dark place. And it was tough. I felt like I was crawling out of that dark place, but I had to do it, and that was, you have to have a reason why. But sometimes people just have a hard time finding that reason because that darkness really like covers everything else that makes sense in their life.
That's I don't know, I'm kind of in awe right now, when you're telling your story. I mean, even when we were at the table, I mean, I guess this is just the fact of, I mean, just the fact that, you're saying you're trying to learn how to use stages and all that stuff, but I know who you're talking about. I think the guy is Pete Vargas. He
Yeah.
spoke at 10X, and, he has a course and a program and all that. But I know the course and the program is actually helping people to develop their story and learn how to present it. But I mean, you already have a story. I mean, that's the
Thank
fact,
you.
yeah, because I mean, the fact is, I mean, it's just the fact that the way you're telling your story. I mean, I can kind of see that you are very passionate about this. And I think one reason is, we're experiencing grief where you're hitting people at their heart. And the fact is, you're touching people pretty much where a lot of people just don't touch because pretty much this group was until now. Well, actually, I guess my wife, talks about psychology and eating everything. But other than that, until now, it's like it was just about, pretty much just business stuff, surface stuff, applicable stuff you can apply. But I mean, when you start talking about things that actually go deep, into the heart, I mean, it kind of, is just captivating. And that's another thing, like, as far as, you saying that I really can't bring, the person that just lost her husband to you. I mean, she pretty much has to be ready. I mean, that's another thing. It's like, how do you get people to see your message? Because it's like somebody just lost a loved one. Obviously, I mean, it just seems odd to go to them and say, well, I can help you, but yet you need to pay me. So it's like, how do you differentiate? I mean, because it's kind of hard to go in there. Because I mean, obviously, we being, marketers are taught, always don't do anything without, asking for money, get used to asking people for money because obviously, we paid for, I guess, specific amount of training. We've got training, and not only necessarily that, but it's time, because everybody talks about, time is money. So
Right.
obviously, if you're spending your time consulting these people, then obviously you need to get compensated in some kind of way. And yes, some people I know they're going to be, I guess devil's advocate, and they're going to say, well, she should just be happy of the fact that she helped somebody. So, I mean, I guess what do you say to those people? Because I mean, once you, consult somebody, because obviously I know that you can help people just from the fact of, just how passionate you are and just the fact that you went through the same thing, that somebody else is going through. So you
Right.
pretty much know it. You've been in their shoes, which
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, it makes, I guess, a person, I guess, more compelling to come to you. And it actually, just the fact that they know you've been in their shoes because they heard your story. I mean, they're listening to it now. They heard it before on LinkedIn and wherever else, you're broadcasting, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those social media platforms. So, I mean, how do you get people to just see the fact that, they, for one, they need your help. And then for two, I mean, how do you go in and just, ask them for money? It's like, well, you're so and so just died, you just lost, or even somebody that just went bankrupt. Because obviously, yeah, I mean, I think people can experience grief from that because that's a big loss. Because I mean, if you
Right.
go pay through, more than likely, you lost your house. You pretty much may have lost, your family, your wife, your spouse, maybe,
Mhm.
your parents or something like that. I mean, you lost, your car, more than likely, you lost clothes, belongings, everything. I mean, that's a lot of things, to encompass. So I guess, I mean, how do you, and then it's like, because obviously they don't have any money, they're bankrupt, they're still trying to get up. So, I mean, how do you go in and say, give me your money? Like
Oh.
Grant Cardone, who's got my money?
Right. You know what? It's a tough sell. I won't lie. But really, at the end of the day, people pay for all kinds of services and products, right? We do. I mean, that is just the exchange of how we do things as a human race. We pay doctors to help us heal. I mean, and I'm not a clinician, but in that same field of servicing people with mental or emotional trauma, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, coaches, counselors, we're all in the same field. If you think about it, we just have different expertise. And I will tell you that I'm very confident that as a grief recovery specialist, unless any of those clinicians have a grief certification, they are not experts in grief. And you mentioned a good point is people will come to me and trust me because I've walked down that path of darkness, right? My story is personal. I didn't get into this space for money. I got into this space because it helped me and I saw a deeper purpose to serve and help others. And everyone that's in the field of service is out there to help someone that needs their help in one way, shape, or form. And the other part to that is if someone truly wants to be healed and needs to be healed, they will find the means to pay me. Like when I went for myself, money was not an issue for me. I just knew that if I didn't get myself help, and I had already seen a psychologist for 2 months, and those 2 months, she could not help me. Every single session that I went in, I felt worse coming out. And the only reason why I stayed through those sessions is because I was still at my corporate job. And it was the only way for me to stay out of work, was because I was under the care of a licensed physician. Do you know what I mean? So if I had a choice, I would have said, you know what, I'm wasting my whole hour of my life once a week to see her. Like, I felt bad for her too, because she's listening to me and I could tell she wants to help me. But grief was not her expertise, right? And I get that. I get many clients that have been going through therapy for years and finally come to me and they're like, where were you years ago when I needed you? I was in a griever years ago. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like sometimes, we're in the wrong place, or we're going to the wrong experts to help us. And it's just a matter of finding us, right? And so that's why it's so important for me to be out there in every aspect of marketing that I can, whether it's social media, whether it's stages, whether it's going into businesses, physically, whether it's just talking to someone at a table like you, right, during lunch. Every opportunity that I have to tell my story, I do it. But it wasn't always like that. I shunned away and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to tell my story yet, or I don't know if it's going to make someone feel uncomfortable. Now, asking me that question, I'm not out there to make people feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, I'm here to tell my story. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you can certainly walk away. But I have a service to provide. And, like Grant says, I mean, if you've got something to offer someone, you would be a disservice if you're not doing that every single moment of your life. Right? So that's what I do. I mean, I'll do it over coffee. I'll do it over wine. I'll do it with family. I'll do it with friends. I'll do it with strangers. Because every single person on this planet has grieved or will grieve. And so my services are always going to be there for someone.
That's interesting. I mean, I've seen some people. I mean, obviously, this isn't a sexy topic. So I've seen some people come in and go out, because I'm watching. I guess the viewers. Not that I really care, because Facebook will push it
No
to
worries.
whatever they want. But I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't care about the viewers. But I mean, just like you said, actually, I think it might have been Mackenzie Lieberman that said that, because obviously, she's kind of big in the bot space and all that stuff. But anyway, I kind of told her, like, yeah, this was back maybe when I had maybe 50, 60 people in my group. But I told her, I was like, yeah, I got a small group. She was like, well, if I can just help one person, in their business, that's, and I mean, you mentioned pretty much, the same thing. If you can just help one person. So obviously I know 3 people tuned in. So hopefully, at least one of those people will be helped. But obviously, It'll be more than that, when they Facebook pushes it out. And then, just the fact of, this may not be, a particular topic that you guys don't want to talk about. But I mean, the thing is, you need to talk about it, because I've heard J.R. Rivas say that, there's no such thing as, a business problem. It's just personal problems that roll over into business. So, I mean, some of the issues that you're having in your business may be the fact that, you're having personal problems that you really don't know about, that are on the, I guess, the deeper, the spectrum and the level. And let me go ahead and ask you, I guess, about some marketing things, because I know you said you're pretty much on a lot of platforms right now. I guess in your aspect, because, well, actually, let me just say this first. If you guys are not using LinkedIn, I actually saw one of Darlene's videos. Actually, I guess we just linked up on LinkedIn at the mastermind last week or something,
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we just linked up on LinkedIn, and I guess obviously whoever you're in connections with or whatever on LinkedIn, their videos come across your feed sometime. And I looked at one video that she posted, and I think it might have been, maybe it was up a day. I know it was no more than 2 days, and it already had 800 views on it. And I saw that, I was like, what in the world is going on here? Because I didn't know, actually, I never really paid attention to LinkedIn. I know that I should be, but I mean, as far as, just pretty much just going in, making posts and all that stuff, I just pretty much just made connections on LinkedIn. I never really made, a lot of posts and all that stuff. But I look at, some of my, everybody's, not just mine, but, pretty much even people that have a lot of, I guess, members or followers on Facebook and even on Instagram. And when they're posting, well, maybe not so much on Instagram, but on Facebook, when they're posting videos and stuff, and even on YouTube, because I'm trying to get on YouTube too. But within a day, I mean, and that was all organic, right? That was
Right.
organic. Yeah. So, I mean, she didn't spend any ad spend, and she got 800 views on her video. So you guys, I mean, and I just thought it's like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because it took me almost, I guess I looked at a video that I did sometime around October, November, and I had 900 views. And that's been almost 3, 4 months now. So she got like 800 views in almost a day. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys, I'm saying that I think, LinkedIn is, the place to be as far as sending video, because really you don't see a lot of videos and everything like that. Now, obviously, yeah, it depends on the niche and the people you're going after and all that stuff. But when I saw that, I was like, hold on, Darlene. I was like, what are you doing here? Because I actually sent her a message. I mean, it really stopped me in my tracks. So let me ask you this question, as far as what type of, or what social media platform do you see as being, I guess, the prime one to actually just get, I guess, the most organic traffic, or I guess even for your particular niche, or maybe even for other niches, but obviously you're speaking on behalf of your niche. So I guess on your niche, what particular platform do you like to go to where you can pretty much get the most engagement, the most traffic, and the most reach for pretty much free? Because I don't think do you spend any money
Nope.
on ads or anything?
No.
So I
No.
mean, what,
No. I
in
do
your
spend
opinion,
for
what
the
is,
premium. I do spend for the premium profile though on LinkedIn.
oh,
Yeah. So and that really just helps me to filter out a little bit more than the free one. But you don't really need. No one really needs to pay unless you're trying to grow, so much bigger. But when you're first getting on LinkedIn and kind of playing around with it, I would totally recommend just the free site for now. But for me, LinkedIn has definitely been the most impactful for my business. And that's just been a little bit over a year that I've been on LinkedIn. And it was just by chance that I stumbled across some feeds that had videos. And I, just like you, I thought, video on LinkedIn? Really? Like, I thought this was just about building professional connections, but no one really engaging, right? So engagement and producing content on LinkedIn is something fairly new. I think it's been going on now for about maybe 2.5 years. I came in a little bit later than some of the other folks, but there's still such a small percentage of people producing content on LinkedIn. So right now is like really the best time to get on LinkedIn if you're not on there yet. And 800, honestly, like you were saying that, I'm thinking, wow, thank you, but that's not even a lot. Like if you look at one of my posts, I think in just maybe 3 days, I got 10,000 views. And it wasn't even a video, it was a post. It was a picture of my husband and I, and it was just, my caption was just a question of, if you had 5 days to live, how would you spend those 5 days? And that traffic was crazy. Not just the views, but the comments, the engagement that people were really like answering my question. It was crazy. I was like, on a post? That wasn't even a video.
By the way, I'm gonna have to steal that one. I'm writing it down now.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And I am like small compared to some of the other people that I follow on LinkedIn or that I engage with on LinkedIn. That's why I said, like, connect with that guy in South Carolina that I told you to connect with. He's a powerhouse on LinkedIn. Amazing. And he's got a much bigger network. I think I have like over 3,500, people that I connect with. Some people have 10,000, 20,000. Like, it's crazy. The amount of people that you could connect with on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is so much more intentional when it comes to a professional platform, right? People are intentional to go on there to network in a professional way. Whether you're looking for employees, whether you're looking for employment, or whether you're just looking to connect from a professional level. And so the intention of LinkedIn makes that engagement so much wider and deeper than on Facebook or on Instagram. But the reason I use all of them is because I'm not just trying to reach the professional network, although that's a big space for me. Like I said, grievers are everyone on the globe. So you're going to reach different generations and different people on different platforms, which is why I post on every single one of them. I haven't really done YouTube yet. I have a couple of videos on YouTube, but I haven't really ventured into YouTube. That might be my next thing, because I just started on Twitter. But just like the three that I've been using for a while, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, all three of them have different viewers that come into my space. And so sometimes my messaging is the same, sometimes it's different. It really, really depends. But yeah, I definitely encourage everyone that's an entrepreneur, social media marketer, whatever space you're in, get on LinkedIn, because that's where you're going to find a lot of people to truly network with on a professional level and to be able to scale your business, I think, a lot more than on the other two platforms. Unless you're like really good at ads and marketing on Instagram and Facebook, it's intentional on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's well, actually we just had some, as soon as you said engagement, actually Albert hopped on and said live. So actually I guess that was that was a trigger for him. So welcome, Albert. If you guys have
Hi,
any questions,
Albert.
yeah, they know each other. He's another mastermind member. But if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat box in the comments, and Darlene will answer them either now or on the replay itself. But yeah, that's something that I have issues with as far as posting on LinkedIn and just putting content on LinkedIn. Because just as you said, I guess the way people receive information on LinkedIn is different than, and Albert says hi and puts a hand up. But the way people receive information on LinkedIn is actually different from Facebook and Instagram, and
Right.
also I guess Twitter. I really hadn't gotten in the Twitter space, but I know that actually Gary Vee said, if you get like two or three business owners together, they can pretty much take over Twitter because it's pretty much forgotten. And I know that some people still use Twitter. And then also, I mean, there's just so many platforms out there. I mean, you could think about Reddit, because actually I'm looking at getting into YouTube ads, doing YouTube ads. And actually for some reason, I guess somehow they're related with Reddit, and obviously Google owns YouTube. So you pretty much, in the search engines and stuff with Google, if you pretty much, get, I guess, a specific or a good ad, a lot of engagement on the ad, they can push it into, I guess, the Google search engine and all
Right.
that stuff, and it'll help with your SEO and all that. But yeah, that's one thing that I had, struggle with as far as, just differentiating my content and putting it on LinkedIn. So, I mean, obviously, I know you said I guess, how do you change your story depending on what platform you're on? Like if you're going on LinkedIn, I mean, I guess you said there's more business type. But I mean, how do you differentiate your content between the different platforms?
Well, it started off with, just the mindset of what I was on the platforms for in the first place. So, for example, Facebook is really more family and friends. That was really more my personal space. And I do have a business page on Facebook that I'm working on on posting or publishing. I'm just, kind of working through all the details of it, but it's more personal. So a lot of times when I post on Facebook, my postings are a little bit more personal. I share, like memories of Frank and I, as they come up. And I know that my audience on Facebook is a lot of family and friends, and a lot of those are Frank's family and friends because we shared a Facebook page when he was alive. And so when I'm doing my messaging, a lot of times I try and make sure that my messaging is always incorporating some type of memory or some type of just a post that is an opportunity to teach people about grief in my personal space. Instagram is kind of both because I have a lot of people that I don't know on Insta, and so I use that as kind of my medium. So Instagram is kind of like my middle platform of both business and personal. And then LinkedIn is all professional, right? So, I mean, definitely have people on there that I know and have become really good friends of mine through networking and engaging with them. But that's always the professional space. So I think a little bit more about my content before I post it on LinkedIn before I do on Instagram or Facebook. Sometimes on Instagram or Facebook, I'm like, I have a thought or I have a feeling and I just go live, or I'll just post something because it's how I feel. I don't ever do that on LinkedIn. I always think about what I'm going to post on LinkedIn because I know that it's a professional space. So that's the difference between the three. And then Twitter, same thing. I just started Twitter. I don't even really know how to use it, to be honest. So if there's anyone that knows Twitter, man, let me know, because I'm just like, I'm reading feeds and I'm going, okay, this is what people post. But I was actually encouraged by a really big speaker to get on Twitter, because that's how she got a lot of her stages as well. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'll just get on Twitter, I guess, and figure it out. So yeah.
Yeah, do you guys, I hope you guys see what Darlene just did there as far as how she knows where to put her content in. I mean, this will help you guys too, even in whatever business you have, especially social media marketing. I mean, there's certain things that you need to post on certain, platforms. Obviously, I guess it was a post that actually I'm in another mastermind and stuff as well. And then we actually were supposed to take posts and put them on different platforms. And I saw this one guy where he was going to take a post, and just the wording and everything that he had on, I guess, Facebook, he actually took that same post and put it on LinkedIn. And he asked us in the mastermind to review it. I was like, I don't know if I would use that wording on, LinkedIn, because obviously the people on there are actually going to receive it different. It's like, there's a different audience. There's a different, business on it. I mean, that's just like, with anything as far as your marketing and everything.
Right.
Even if you're marketing for different clients and stuff, you need to know this. Because, I mean, if you have an ad for a particular dentist, I mean, in some, if you're doing like a free tooth whitening or whatever, some, I guess, demographics or even some, I guess, stages and some platforms, that people are not going to receive that. But if you turn that message around, they may receive it. I mean, because some people just don't want stuff free. I mean, if somebody told me that, I was like, what do you mean? Everybody likes free, but some people really don't want stuff free. I mean, like, some people really like spending money. I mean, if you have money, well, I still want stuff free regardless. I mean, maybe it's just, but I mean, I guess if if you're at that high level and it's just, I guess some people think, not to say that they're better, better than other people, but some people just really don't want to spend, want stuff free. So They want to spend money. So you have to, I guess, figure out a way to, trigger, I guess, a reaction or to get them to engage. So that's interesting that Darlene said that. So there's your marketing tip. So, you learned about grieving, now you're learning about marketing. So there's the, the transition. Obviously, she knows what she's doing as far as marketing, because she just pretty much explained to you guys, how she is actually marketing her business. And that was another thing that I wanted to touch on, just the fact that, it's hard just to go into any market, whatever business you have. It's kind of hard to, weave around and get your message out. But the thing is, she is actually talking about, I guess, a touchy subject, something that's hard.
Right.
And, it all deals with your mindset. Because obviously, like I said, it's like, how do you get people to, pay you after they just, had a loss? but I mean, she believes that, which I believe it too, that the service that she has can actually help people. So if you have a service that you truly know can help people, then why would you not want to, ask them for money? And like she said, people should be willing to pay you, give you, money just for, like I said, as far as the time issue and the time effect that, you're taking away from actually that they're taking away from you. Because obviously there's a million things that you can do with their time. So, and then I guess there's another question I wanted to ask you. I know we're getting ready to wrap up now, but I really want to touch on this. Just as far as what would you attribute to your, I guess your number one reason for success? I mean, do you think it's mindset? Do you think it's mentors? Do you think it's, I guess, relationships, networking? I mean, what do you think is your number one reason for your success of your business?
I think my number one reason for success is understanding that this is my purpose in life now. And I always tell people that, it sucks that my purpose chose me and I didn't choose it. But I always finish off by telling people, you don't have to find your purpose that way. You don't have to wait to be in a dark space like me to find your purpose. You just have to understand, what is it about yourself that you can be of service to others with that talent or with that purpose or with that why that you have, right? It could be anything. And I never realized that I have always been one of those people that is like um, I told you earlier that I like to do things that others would not venture into. And I'm just going to tell you a little thing about myself. Some people know it, especially those in my inner circle, but not everyone knows this about me, because this was like in my past. But I was actually a passion consultant. Do you know what that is?
A passion consultant.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
So, well, you probably not, because you're a guy, but most women would know what that is. So it's actually it's network marketing, and it's selling adult romance type toys and
Oh.
edibles and things like that. So yeah, right? It's like, what? So, but that was the first time that I've ever been like on stages or been in front of people and doing presentations as an adult. But even before that, as I was starting to reflect back on my life in high school, it was always about I don't want to say that I was popular, but I was one of the more popular girls in school. And I was one of those that if people didn't want to go up and talk, they would say, have her do it. She'll go up and talk. Have Darlene go up. And so I've never really been afraid of going up and talking in front of people. That always used to be my thing. As a little girl, I started my own dance group, and I, thought about that. I had forgotten about that until I started to really do a lot of self reflection. But my mom couldn't afford to put me in a dance group. So I formed my own dance group with my little cousins and my sisters. And we actually went out and performed on a huge stage. It was election year. And my grandfather was like this big guy around politics. And one of his really good friends was running for the governor of Guam, and we had a big fundraising. And I said, can I perform at the fundraiser? Dude, there was thousands of people there. I was 8 years old, leading a dance group of 6, 7, and 5 year olds.
Wow. Wow.
I had forgotten about that. My grandmother helped us make our costumes. We just had a tape recorder of music from another dance group that I liked, the bigger girls, and I had my mom record it for me. And we used those songs, and they just put it on the big speaker. And you had these little girls going up dancing. And yeah, so, it's always been one of those things where I'm like, if someone doesn't want me to do it, or I can't do it, or I can't afford it, or I'm going to figure out a way to do it. If someone doesn't want to do it, like I brought those passion products to Guam, no one was doing it there. And I was living in California at the time. I went, Guam needs this stuff. And so when I moved back from California to Guam, I told my husband, I want to do this. He's like, go for it. So I found a company online that would be able to ship products to Guam. They taught me how to do their presentations through online videos. And I started serving the women on Guam with enhancing their romance, right? And so I really believe that all of that throughout my life set me up for what I'm doing today. And I never realized that until I started to venture into a lot of self discovery for myself and figuring out what I really was about, what my purpose was. And I realized, you know what, I've been doing this since I was a little girl. But this now is the most meaningful. This is the most impactful, and this is what is going to change lives around the globe. And that's my mission, man. I'm going big. You know, after the 10X conference, I said, go big or go home, right? Like, so don't think small scale. Like every single person on this planet is a griever, so I'm going to figure out how to reach as many people as I can.
Yeah, that's powerful. What did Our says, Darlene, were you ever scared to speak in front of people? What bit of advice would you give someone who wants to do lives and speaking in front of people?
Look, I'm scared every single time I go in front of crowds. Like social media, not a big deal. But when I get on a stage, like a real stage, ask anyone in my inner circle, I'm sweating. I can't sleep the night before. I can't eat right before I get on stage. My heart is palpitating. Such a normal reaction, I think, for anyone that's going to get on a stage. But right before I get on stage, I just take a few deep breaths, and it's knowing your content, right? If you know what you're going on stage for and you've got a deep passion for what you're up there for, things are going to flow. And that's what I found for myself. Like I can practice in front of a mirror all the time because I do that right before I go on stage. um, but a lot of times when I get up there, what I've practiced doesn't always come out of my mouth because I usually just speak with passion. And especially when I'm talking about this stuff, I know this stuff. I've lived it. I breathe it, right? I walk it. And so when I get up on stage, even though I'm nervous as heck, it's because it's my passion and because I know it from the inside out. It never is hard for me to get up there and talk from my heart. And I think that that's the big thing. And that's a difference between some people that go up there and speak and try and sell you something and they don't really believe in it versus someone that's up there that's trying to change lives. That's how I see it.
That's true, and I guess I got a bit of advice too. And I kind of talked. I think I mentioned this to Hour, but if not, I know I mentioned it into another video because every time well, not every time, but sometimes actually even today I still don't go live because sometimes I get so nervous to go live. And I guess as far as speaking on stages and stuff, I mean, yeah, I mean I'm nervous, speaking because technically I guess my tendencies, or I've taken the Myers-Briggs. Tyler Lopez, actually, I think Tyler Lopez actually had me labeled as an introvert with his personality test. I mean, extrovert. But yeah, on the Myers Briggs, I was actually, labeled as an introvert. And I've pretty much been, in isolation my whole entire, I won't say a whole entire life. I mean, even growing up, I just pretty much sat at home and played video games. So I was in isolation, and I'm an only child. So I didn't have any brothers or sisters or anything like that. I mean, I played every now and then with my cousins and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily my natural tendency to go out and just blah all on stage and to speak to people. And so I mean I do get nervous, but I mean like Darlene was saying, some of it just pretty much have to go through your nerves and just get used to it. And then she touched on another key aspect of just know your content, because actually even sometimes now today, actually pretty much a lot of my lives that I've done is just me getting on and just talking and just have it come out, because I mean actually I really, if you, I guess in certain situations, you really don't know how much you know until you start, just exposing yourself and just
Yeah.
talking about, particular stuff. So I would encourage you, Albert, just to get on, just like I told this other lady that I used to work with, because she reached out to me. She's been seeing some of the stuff that I used, that I do online and everything like that. And then she's like, "What are you doing?" And it's like I told her pretty much, I'm going live, letting people, working on my personal brand. I'm working on building my business as well, building myself as an authority in my niche and all that stuff. But she said, well, I just can't go live. And I was like, well, first off, don't say can't. So, it's pretty much,
Right.
you've already eliminated yourself, from the situation. That's already a failure, just the fact that you say can't. I try to teach my kids not to say can't, and I try not to have that in my vocabulary. At least reword it and say, well, it's hard for me to go live,
Right.
say something like
Exactly.
that. But, and then I also told her, you may not just be able to get out and go live, period. Just the fact that, just, start small, just, go, kind of like you were saying, Darlene, go in front of a mirror and record yourself,
Right.
then post that to Facebook, then go back and watch it and improve on what you're saying. Just kind of, make progressive steps. And so I would encourage you to do that, because actually Facebook has some, I guess, capabilities now where you can actually just post a video and you can put punch live, where you can upload a video, you record a video, upload it to Facebook, and you can put live, and it's like, it's a live video. It says, I can't get out of my head. Well, obviously, well, I mean, I don't want to be hard on
Don't
you,
use the
Albert,
word
but
can't.
actually, yeah, I guess that was the first thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to be hard on you, but I know it would get ready to start a mastermind and all that stuff, which I need to reach out to you. Well, I guess like I don't know, accountability group. But I mean, right now, I guess the situation is just work on your mindset. Just do everything you can. And actually, I think Rob Quinn mentioned this to me, or on the interview that we had, and if not, he mentioned it, kind of behind the scenes, where you need to work on your mindset and do, I guess, affirmations and stuff. Actually, it's some of the stuff that I've been working on with my kids and stuff now is I ask them, I say, who was a winner? And I get them to say, I am. And I say, who, I asked them, I was like, who was a loser? Because obviously, people aren't always going to, tell you. So I want them to have the both sides of it. They understand that they're a winner, but if somebody comes to them and says, the opposite of what they are, I'm asking them, I'm pretty much putting myself in that, the other person's shoes. So I ask them, I say, who's a loser? They say, not me. And then, it's like, who's going to change the world? And actually, I got this from Rob Quinn as well. He says, he works on this, his kids. He does this with his kids. So I guess the situation is, pretty much every day, just like Darlene said, get in front of the mirror and have positive affirmations toward yourself, and just say, I can do this, I can speak on stage, I am a great speaker. Kind of like, actually, even at the mastermind, where the guy said he stood up, when we were in the mastermind, and Ty Lopez just pretty much put him on the spot, where he said, I'm not a good speaker. And Ty pretty much told him the same thing. Is like, go to Google, use a word generator, and just let Google generate a word and practice speaking on that word. Whatever word pops up, just practice giving a speech on it.
Right.
Maybe start out 2 minutes, start out 3 minutes, start out 5 minutes. And that's actually what this guy did in the mastermind. So that is, one key to a mastermind. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So get in masterminds where the people who are leading the masterminds put you in an uncomfortable situation. But the guy got up there and actually performed well, which I thought he did pretty good, because
Yeah.
he actually incorporated jokes and everything in it. So you really don't know what you can do until you get out and try to do it. So what I would encourage you to do is just go on the day, even today, because you don't say, I'm going to do it tomorrow, I'm going to do it.
Right.
I would
Let's
actually
do it.
once this, don't do it like right now, because I know you're watching the live and everything like that. But once we close down the live, I would actually encourage you just to get on the video and just say something, even if it's 1 second, 2 seconds. I mean, just start from there, and then, record it, and then go back and watch it. Say, how can I improve on it? Just constantly keep doing that. And everybody wants to, talk about, like, especially in our area. I know that you're doing, I guess, social media marketing and all that stuff, Howard. But the thing is, everybody looks down on the person that actually signs a deal for $500 or $200. It's still money that you didn't have, and you're actually helping somebody, their business grow. So, don't look down on the small things, constantly, continuously, just look at your progression. Look how far you came. And I know you're doing stuff with e-com. I don't want to expose you, but you asked the question, so I'm pretty much just going in on you now. So, but I know you're doing e-commerce and all that stuff, and you just think, when you first got into the e-commerce space, how much you knew. And actually, it seems like you've grown, in a short amount of time, but that's because, you applied yourself. When you first did, went behind the scenes on, in Facebook analytics and everything like that, and you're looking behind the scenes, building your ads out and all that stuff. Obviously, yeah, it looks overwhelming, but if you take things piece by piece, then obviously, everything just pretty much, comes together and just formulates together. So that's what I would encourage you to do, Albert. And I have one more question for you, Darlene. I guess, as far as, let me ask you, I guess, if you were to have, I guess, if you could have anything in the world, most of the time I label this as superpowers, but I'm going to have to figure out another way to word this, because I guess,
I
I
like
guess,
superpowers.
oh, all right. Well, I'll just leave it the same. So if you were to have one superpower, what would it be, and why?
If I were to have a superpower, I think that my superpower is being able to really understand human emotion at the deepest level possible, not just for myself, but for others, and being able to help others to uh, embrace and feel those human emotions. That sometimes human emotions, people suppress it or try to ignore it and keep busy, right? Because it's too painful or it's too scary for them to venture through. And so, my superpower, especially as a grief recovery specialist, is to walk people through that very scary and confusing and deep, painful place to help them to the other side of healing and triumph and resilience and recovery.
Wow, that's deep. That is deep. So actually, I mean, there's really nothing else I can say after that. So we'll just close the interview right here. Lights out, close it off. But actually, Darlene, seriously, how can people get out? How can people reach out to you? I know, do you have a website? They can reach you on LinkedIn. I know you're on LinkedIn. You're on Facebook. What's the best platform where people can reach you at? How can people reach out to you if they need your services, or actually even if they have, one of their friends or family members that
Right. Yeah,
needs
so
your
all
to
of
your
my social media platforms are public. They're all open. I don't have any of them private. And they're all under my name. So both Facebook is Darlene Garcia, LinkedIn is Darlene Garcia. Instagram is kind of funky. It is my name, but it's got a dot and a underscore at the end, just because my name isn't as unique, right? There's a lot of Darlene Garcias out there on Instagram already, and so but it's linked to my Facebook. But I think Facebook and LinkedIn might be probably the best places. I also have a website. It's darlenegarcia.org, O-R-G, and they can find me there as well. Or they can check you out, Mike, and you can give them my info.
that'll work. But I want to thank Darlene for joining us. And if you guys, like I said, this is a subject that a lot of people don't talk about, but I would encourage you to reach out to Darlene if you have pretty much, like she said, any type of loss. See, going into, I was thinking, pretty much she was just specifically, speaking with, just, I guess, lost loved ones or, pet that, had died or anything like that. But obviously, she expanded and broadened my, I guess, my field of, just grief itself and who actually, she helps if you experience any type of loss, whether obviously, as business owners, even you might even experience grief from losing a client,
Yeah,
like your social
exactly.
media. Yeah. So, I mean, you can just reach out to her and just see, if she can help you, just to see if it really has taken an effect on you. And even just the fact of, making cold calls, because I know a lot of social media marketing agencies, they make a lot of owners, and even I guess they have call centers and stuff they're working with. But even just the fact of that, I mean, you can experience grief with that,
Right.
just rejection and stuff like
Yep.
that. So, yeah, so I want to thank you, Darlene. And I guess, I don't know, do you have another a powerful tip or quote or, saying that you want to give? And just, as you close us out, I'll just let you have the last word.
I just want everyone to know that, there's always someone out there that can inspire you, or you can inspire, right? And I always believe that. I always believe that every single one of us have a story to share. Oh, by the way, can I just also plug in the podcast that I'm a co-host for? It's called
Oh,
Anchored
yes, yes.
Souls Uncut, and it's with Ashley Horner. Ashley has many different businesses. She owns a recruiting firm. She's a big mental health advocate. But Anchored Souls is her business, and I'm her co-host. But basically, what we do is we provide a safe space in our podcast for anyone to share their story, and their story could be anything. Because, like, we believe that everyone's story is going to help or inspire someone in the world. So everyone's story matters. So it's called Anchored Souls Uncut, and they can reach me on any of the social media platforms if they'd like to share their story, and then we can hook them up on our calendar and get them on our show.
All right. Thanks so much, Darlene. And I'm actually putting that in the comments now. Actually, I should come back and you can just send me a link and all that stuff for
Okay.
your reach outs and all that. So thank you guys for joining in and tuning in. And whether you're watching this, obviously, whether you watch this now on the live or whether you're watching in the replay, just let us know your feedback. And if you have any questions, put it in there. Either I'll come back. Obviously, I don't know if I'm qualified and, capable of answering some of the deep, brief questions. So actually, if I do see them on my feed, I'll forward them to Darlene and get her in
Yes.
touch with you, or either vice versa, however that wants
Right.
to work. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys on the next one. Have a great, wonderful day, wonderful week. I should be coming out with a couple of other interviews shortly this week. Yeah, I'll let you know about that then. But yeah, it's good. I'm trying to interview a guy off LinkedIn. He built his LinkedIn page. I don't know, it was like 30,000 in about maybe 8 hours or so. So it's yeah, I don't know. He has some weird type of tactic. I mean, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but yeah. So he should be joining us. I don't know. He's kind of, I guess, busy and answering his message. He said he was interested, but we'll see. But anyway, thanks for joining us and tuning in, and thank you again, Darlene, for being on here and sharing your passion with us, not just, your services or your business or whatever. That was pretty much just your passion. So thanks for sharing your passion with us. And as somebody said, your passion will make room for you. So I will see you guys later and have a good one. And thanks, Darlene. Bye.
All right. Bye.